I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. The details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion.
Welcome to the Royal House of We the People. Today is Tuesday. We're recording this, so this will probably come out late on Tuesday, the 9th of December, 2025, or Wednesday, the 10th. We have again Sheila Holm. Sheila is one of the icons in this war who is teaching all of us the history, the true history of our country and our world. And we're so pleased to have Sheila on with us. So, Sheila, every week we seem to bring more and more to the table. And just recently, before we started recording this, Juan dropped a pretty good, I don't know, call it bomb or information bomb. Do we want to touch on that from the very beginning here?
He dropped a few. He dropped the Ticton letter, the application for a presidential pardon for Tina Peters. And if nobody's heard today, they put her back in isolation. They said it was for her protection. Also today, the DOJ was able to move on the case investigating the prison status in Colorado. That wouldn't have happened if this hadn't come to this level of checking out what's going on in Colorado. On top of that, this afternoon, what was afternoon in the East Coast, F-18s entered the airspace in Venezuela, and amazing things are happening. Maria Machado was exiled out of Venezuela, so it's been confirmed that she's safe. And but the other details, we were hoping that Juan could come on, but he's on an interview right now with some people in Japan. And that was already preset before we set our time. And so he's doing that interview. He may join us. So it's exciting what's happening because what we're finding out, and that's why it's so neat that you guys added the We the People to the title of this program, is that what we're finding out is what I've been saying. It's not having someone fix it. It's not depending and trusting that all of those people that you don't even know, you don't know their families, you don't know how they treat their children, you don't know how they treat their finances, you don't know anything about these people. And we have been trusting them to handle our nation. And we're finding out they handled it the way they handled their family and their finances. And it's not how we thought they were handling our nation. Because a republic is a very unique structure of government. It's of, by, and for the people. And I keep saying it's we the people who form a more perfect union. So that's why I pray that everybody who hears anything I say feels they can take it on themselves, because it's each of us giving the truth to each other to unite more people together, so the silent majority that love the Lord know that he's truth and life, know that the other kingdom is death, and they're asking the Father what they can do today. Because only the Father knows the end from the beginning. I've given you guys so many examples of how I wouldn't even know how to do these things. And the funniest things have happened. I was on an interview last night where they were talking about the disciples transporting and being transported by the Father, blah, blah, blah. And I gave him an example. Juan and I were both in South Carolina. When he called me, he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in South Carolina." He said, "Well, so am I." He was going to get into Augusta at 2 o'clock. And I said, well, the guys meeting on election integrity are getting together at 12:30. I was just introducing him to those guys. And he said, well, I don't think I can be there at 12:30. I said, well, let me see if they can pick up the lunch because they're going to lunch right away and then have the afternoon meeting. So I call the guys, I get it all set up. All of a sudden, right around 12:25, Juan's calling me. And he goes, so where are you now? And I go, oh my gosh. He said, what? And I said, I'm at my garage. It's 12:30. He was at the person's house, which is just blocks from my house, at 12:30. Father transported both of us from knowing the conversation that it was important for him to meet with these guys at 12:30 and not miss lunch and not have to delay having lunch until 2 o'clock. You see what I mean? Father does things that we can't even imagine. So there's something I've never mentioned on interviews, but it's on my heart because so many people, and especially our soldiers who have fought for us, are thinking there's no hope. We always have hope. And the thing that we can do, and I learned this from the military guys, when we pray, keep your eyes open, observe everything around you. Think of the words you're using because there are angels among us everywhere. The way that things get activated with the Father is that they're waiting for assignments. And if we're constantly complaining and we aren't going to get through this, and this whole storm is too big for us, and we can't get on the other side of it. That's why how many times have you been on my social media and I'm sharing a picture of a buffalo walking through the storm because they never stop. They continue walking until they get on the other side of the storm because then they know that's the only way to get through. And that's what we have to do. And so many people kept asking me, this goes back 20 and 30 years, why do you come to these events and tell everybody that there are miracles, that the Father is blessing his people? And I said, because it's happening every day. And they said, well, I am quite old compared to the people with the examples, and I haven't had witnessed a miracle in my life. And I said, that's because we stop in the storm. If you don't keep walking through it with the Father, because with him all things are possible, our miracles are on the other side of the storm. And I pray that it's going to help people understand where we are right now is because we are in the storm. And you can say we're watching a movie, but are you going to sit on the sidelines and not be part of any of it? Because then can Father say, I never knew you? So if you're in this storm with us, it's everyone's responsibility to keep your eyes open, stay alert to what's going on, speak what is going on with the Father, because that's where the angels can participate in the missions and assignments that you're on. Because you have no idea where God can take you. I had no idea. All of these years, I had no idea I'd be here now. I had no idea he would show me these things to be able to share them in such simple terms. But everything, when it's from the Father, is in simple terms. There's no extra, there's no fluff, there's nothing added. That's leaven. And he describes that in scripture. So he makes it so simple and gives the assignment. And in doing that assignment, you have no idea who he's going to connect you with. I've been connected with people globally that I thought, oh my gosh, look what you've done for me. And when I met Juan and he saw my books, and the very next day, 24 hours later, he confirmed projects he worked on with the same top people in America and the same people globally. And God was doing it at the same time because I was saying, if I wasn't targeted at Lynn Woods and everybody thought I was never going to live, I was going to die. Nobody thought I was going to live. And you gave me a chance to come to the specialist. I never would have met you. And yet, look at there are times when we were working on the same projects with the same people, and we were probably feet from each other. But it's Father's timing. So he said, don't think that you had to get sick and need a specialist so I could introduce you to the specialist so we could get together because it's Father's timing. So just having that simple conversation with him, because then I started almost being thankful that I was targeted. And on my way out of this world, and Father kept me here in order to meet him, and that's not it at all. It gave him credibility about me, because to me, he already had the credibility. Sheila Holm didn't. Sheila Holm is just not known. She's not, I'm not at the level of a Juan. And so here I am describing these things, but look what Father does. And he does these things, and over the years, I'll never forget when I told Nino, it was back in 1993 when I was a hairstylist, and this woman has a great 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 grandfather named Dr. Samuel Mudd, who set the leg of John Wilkes Booth. And that's the first conversation she has with me. How did I know in 1993 that I was going to find out about the Knights of Pythias in 2019 and resolve for that entire Mudd family that don't let your name be called Mudd? Was because Samuel Mudd went to prison because he didn't know the name of that society. Just take a moment with the Father. If you're thinking you don't have miracles in your life, just think about some of the people he's introduced you to, some of the things he's already brought you through. Because we never focus on this. We focus on what? All the problems in the world. And no matter how much we focus on that, is there anybody out there today who could have made a difference in Venezuela today, like what happened today? There are people who can do that, and we can't do that. Because I've gone from getting things accomplished to being in a place where I don't think this is going to happen. And I don't think you need me down here anymore, God. I think I need to come home. And then when he said, I'm not bringing you home, then it's like, well, then I don't see any reason why I should be here. I've been through those same processes in my mind. I've had to deal with the fact that, you know what? I can't resolve this. I can't make this better. I don't know how to make this better. But I've never quit. I've never given up. I've never stopped walking. I've never stopped driving. I did stop flying because I don't put myself on a flight manifest in advance with my name on it. I don't reserve a hotel in advance with my name on it so people know where I am or how I'm getting there. But other than that, it's whatever God wants me to do.
Well, Sheila, I think that through your humility in what you're saying, and I don't pull this up like an infomercial, and you can see mine's kind of bent and torn and stuff because I've read it so many times. Your book, in terms of the eternal plan and just this latest book that you have, and this isn't an infomercial. I'm just saying it's a roadmap on everything. I would say it's Jim and I were talking prior to the show about your humility, and you're such a warrior in this fight. But I think what the Father has exposed through this is just the enormity of that knowledge that you have, that then we can just share this throughout a community that can be action. Because so many people that I talk to in this movement is, well, what do we do? What's the action? What's the do in this? How do we activate whatever? How do we take A to B? And there's never been a roadmap to that until you wrote your books, and it just was like, and I don't, you never told me this, but I envision you just were just like the Father just put all these books out so fast. So it was such a enormous task that was asked of you, and you did it, and you're like, okay, that's it. But when you look at everything that's in this book and you digest it, I mean, this could take somebody, 8 years to write. And I don't know the exact amount of time that it took you to write this book, but the amount of knowledge and the things that you have in here has just been such a blessing to our audience, because they're like, when are you going to have Sheila back on? When are you going to have Sheila back on? When are you going to have Sheila back on? The appetite is so there. And I think it's that humility that we all have, and that we're not looking at this for, hey, clicks and likes and all that stuff. We're looking at this from a standpoint that this is a woman that gets it. And when you can gravitate on somebody that doesn't have that ulterior, motive of whether it's money or podcasts or whatever, and they just truly see the divineness of what they've done and what they're doing, the aura of that is speechless. And I think we've connected with you so hard with that, and our audience has connected so hard with you with that. And it's, I don't know where it's going to take us from that, but I think the appetite is there. People are sitting there in the audience just waiting to say, okay, teach us, teach us, teach us what we've been not taught and what we've been, lied to about. And in such a delicate way, because you do such a great job of presenting things, and not a manner of, with a hammer. You present it with facts. It's like, okay, you've got the receipts. And so I say that because, what you just went through, what you said, all that you've gone through, with all the injustice that's been done to you. I mean, you could sit there and probably spend 3 hours just telling us all about that. And it is horrible, but you don't. That's the point. You don't.
Mike, you bring up a great point, because we were talking before we started recording, and we were talking with Sheila about my friend Kay Elizabeth back in Minnesota. They're taking it upon themselves to take Sheila's book and start holding a class once a week. And we used to do this back, in 2018, 2019, because that's the grassroots. And General Flynn has been saying this all along, is we have to get involved at the grassroots, and that's in our communities, our cities, our towns, our counties, and then through the states. And what Sheila's done here, and Sheila, I hope you don't feel like we're pumping you up, but it's the book that you presented to all of us is basically the workbook, and it's the playbook. It's the playbook to restore our republic.
Well, it goes point by point by point. And then that's her chapter. She didn't have chapter 1, chapter 2, if you look, and I would encourage anybody to if they get it, to see on here, it's not a book. It's not a read. It is a manual. To really, she just captured everything into a series, if you want to call it that. But what I think her intention in doing that, I think what the Father's intention in doing that is not to give her glory and not to give her praise and say, oh, she's going to, have a bestseller book. I think it's all about us in the growth and the magnitude of that information, then multiplying the multiplier effect of everything that she has said in this book needs to be gone. If she were to just silently just go off and say, okay, I wrote this book, but yet millions and millions and millions of people understand what all the research that she's done with this. This isn't her like hypothesis of something. It's evidence of things that she's written in this that is so profound. So, I agree with Jim. Sheila, this is not a puff piece where we're like, because some people are like, oh, you guys are, we don't, but there's very rarely are there people out there that are not self-promoting, that are not all about themselves, that are not all. You are the opposite of that. You take and embody that, and you just give all the facts, and people are like, well, where did that come from? And that's a gift that you've been given, and that we want to help whatever capacity that we have as a team to just put this through on, whether it is, a group of people getting your books and studying it in a manner that is digestible, that people can understand it and they know, okay, we're going to go through these 5 points, and wow, that's a pretty big chunk. Let's go through that. It may take 8 weeks. But that's a strategy that I think needs to be done because we're so bogged down with again, off camp. We were talking about all the things that we have had on our plates as what we've done the last 5 years, and there's scars that are just scars. But we need to start living in a wound, and we need to make sure that we heal these wounds that we've just had over the past 5 years. Part of that healing is just baking in where we're at. And I think, and not living with the scar, because we were scarred on 2020. We were scarred. Heck, some people go all the way back to, 1913, 1871, you name it. Those scars are scars. But we never had anybody in those moments to then live in a wound. And I think we're living in a wound that we can heal. So that's just my thoughts on that. But I think that's a thank you to you, not a pat on the back or anything like that. But I just want to thank you for that, because nobody ever recognizes that. And I know you're too humble to never. But it's through our research that we've done in this book that we've seen that. So I'll shut up.
No, you don't
Well,
shut up. Go
I
on, Sheila, I'm sorry.
I've always donated books. I've always donated to groups. And the tough part was that they then wanted me to show up wherever they were in the world and help the people with the book instead of doing like a Zoom call like what we're on now, where I can help more people at one time. But I've always donated books. I've always given group discounts because I have a lot of widows that buy devotionals at a time and start a group of other widows and families on the devotional. I've had people take the discipleship book, and I've had people do the Storehouse Principle and the workbook. I mean, it depends upon, and right now people have been asking, in fact, when the devotional came out, the first people that asked for a group order was one of the 13 families. They didn't want the curses passed on to the third and fourth generation. That was one of my most emotional moments, because they named who the family was and they knew their position in the 13 families. I said, Father, how do they know the position? And he said, Sheila, look up the 13 families. And when I looked up the search engine for the 13 elite families in the world, God told me, nope, wrong one, wrong one. He went down the whole list with me and said, okay, that one, click on that one. When I clicked on it and opened it up, the family name and the number in the 13 was exactly what the people were telling me. We're this number in 13 families, and we don't want the curses passed on. I mean, it's been so humbling, but this book has brought me to the point of looking back on how I got here, because each of the book series were separate into itself. And even though it was becoming a series, I was putting a little bit of the previous so that if you only buy this book, you're not going to be cheated. I've always wanted to make sure I give value, and I always think there's not enough value in the book, and they become larger and larger. Book 5 in the series was over 1,000 pages. He helped me get to 750, and I said, so now am I on my own? Because I think I have to cut it in half. And then he helped me gently do that. And on this one, I was so sick after being in DC. There were 200 of us invited to DC, and the strategy meetings were intense. And I didn't realize till the November meetings that a lot of people were sick the week after. And I mean, I was really, really sick. And it was a tough time. And Father took me through the whole process of the book, like what you're saying. And because there's 5 things that are not in there that I wish they were in there, but he stopped me at 500 pages. And the crazy part is, I was at 400, going toward 450. He brought it back to 400. Then he had me add that personal letter that was almost 100. So it's like it wasn't my fault it got to be 500, but and I'm going through it with him, and I was so sick, and all I could do was rest, and I don't do that. And he takes me through this whole process, and he goes, Sheila, I had to rein you in. If you would have continued and put all of your research in, this would have been a 3,000-page book, and that's really hard for people to deal with. And that's as brief as he tells it to me. You see what I mean? But from the other side, I used to take it personal. And that's how a lot of people became the silent majority. Majority is that I told them this, they seemed all excited about it, but nobody's picking up anything to do about anything. Nobody's accomplishing anything about it. And God said, they're not rejecting what you told them. They're rejecting me because someone else has told them something different. Because I'm in you, they're rejecting me. And that's what hit me. And I always want to represent him well because I believe the lies. I mean, I wasn't always here, but he gave me a gift growing up. I have an older sister who had a demonic voice. I've heard the guttural satanic voice. I've dealt with someone who can go into that mode in a flash. You don't even know they're going there. And I know a lot of people that have someone in their family that's like that. If I hadn't had that, I wouldn't be able to handle as many negative things that I've been able to handle to be able to explain things. So what I can honestly tell you is everything in my life, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, um, complete attacks, trying to take my life, and there's been a lot. It's not just the attack at and targeting at Lynn Woods where I was in bed for 6 months, but everybody else died that was targeted. Um, God has kept me, and He's continued to walk with me. And it's a shock to me. And in the 12 years without a roof over my head, after 12 years of him providing something great, all of this since the corporation trial and the attorneys and judges going to prison, when he did all of this, I never asked him, well, when am I going to have a roof over my head? Well, how can I do this? Now I've been without a car 3 years. What are we going to do? Are we going to get me a car? You know, I mean, I never kept asking Father. I learned to stop and be with him and thank him. And that morning when I said, it has been 3 years that I've been without a car this time. Would there be any chance that we could do something about a car? I was just gonna, if you want to say anything to me, you could say it now. I'd really like to be having a car again because I had to raise $40 to rent for a day. And that didn't leave much to get groceries. And so because I didn't have anything. And so when he did that, and it was the 12 years, I never ever said, so how long is this going to continue? Because now I've been with like the 14th, 15th, 22nd, 28th host family all over this country. And I never asked because I could see that he was doing something. I could see that he was showing me. Make sure that you keep everything impeccable when you're at someone's house. I want them to miss you. I don't want them to be grateful your stuff is out of their house. Do you see what I mean? Simple stuff like that. He's completely molded and conformed me to what he wanted me to be to come through all of this, to be able to understand it at that level. And I know that I can't take credit for any of it because his ways are not our ways. And what I've done is thank him for showing me his ways to deal with people. I pray that I never answer people so I sound like a clanging bell. I want to sound like him to them. And I will still meet somebody who's doing it far better than I'm doing it, loving people a lot more than at a level I'm loving them. And that inspires and encourages me to keep on getting tighter and tighter with the Father. Because the more you get close to Him, that's why I keep saying it. People go, I don't know why you say that. What difference would that even make, it tighter with the Father? What does that even mean? What that means is we're to conform our heart and mind to Christ. He taught us how to pray. It should be all about the Father's will and aligned with Him. And so now we're in this mess and we just want Christ to come back and save us again. There is no reason Christ has to come back and do anything for us. But I hear it all the time because that's what it happened to the pilgrims. That's why we have to go back to the truth the pilgrims brought, because people are blaming Christ for not coming back and helping them. This is a bad situation. That's why God says, keep telling my people. They wanted Christ to come in 1847 and the Civil War hadn't even started. Because 1838, the state started bringing in the Gentile worship again after the pilgrims said, we don't want that church you had in Europe. You groomed our children. You burned the fathers in oil. If they trained the children in the way they should be raised with the Father, there was no freedom or independence for believers. So even that's a lie. And the pilgrims knew it. So they banned the church structure for 500 years. And the Civil War was 250 years in. And that's why to do this book, I said, Father, every culture disintegrates in 250 years. So that's what's happening in America. That's just what happens. And he said, is it the worst? I said, well, no. You taught me about the faith monument, how to raise up a child in the way they should go, which is 4 pillars. If we were educating our own children, which they wouldn't allow 1850 compulsory public school, they took all of the children, all the slave children, all the Aborigine children, all the children all over the world, took them away from their parents. That's part of the 45 points. That's why when people say, how did you come up with all of this stuff? I'd already written the book series for the sake of America, and he brought me through all these layers. And I told people, and I think I even put it in the book that this is going to be the last book, because now I'm all the way up to Knights of Pythias. And so this is going to be the last book. And then when I do book 5, and I don't even have a subtitle, because it was miraculous how he gave me the one for number 4. I said, I don't even know what this one's going to be about or what the subtitle is going to be. It wasn't until it was done with the book. And he said, all roads lead to Rome, because it was the Holy Roman Catholic Church created, and Catholic means universal. So it's everybody's thoughts about fellowship and worship. But he didn't tell me till the wake up call book that God, Lord, and Master of the universe is Baal. So we're worshiping God, Lord, Master, and of our lives, and that's Baal. And so we don't even know the names of the Father. You see what I mean? But I didn't stay in the, well, what are you going to do for me today? Or how are we going to come through this? Or where are you going to take me? Could you introduce me to some people who could help me? I never, ever communicated like that. And then I learned repentance and repenting for everything those FBI agents did to me, everything the judges and attorneys allowed to have happen in my life. There wasn't a single legal thing that happened to me during all those years. And after I did it all, it took me another 12 years to take care of them. And see, 12 is structure. And so what did he do? He taught me repentance and forgiveness. And now I can't even tell you the names of all those FBI agents. I can't even tell you the one that threatened me. I can't even tell you, I can tell you what he looked like because I can remember that, but I can't tell you his name because I already forgave him and I already repented for believing that they had power in my life. Because the only one I give credit to come through each day is my Father. I go to him for everything. I ask him about everything. I thank him about everything. I include him in everything. He knows all the good and bad in my life every day. And that's what activates the angels when I say, this is what's happening in my life. And I thank you, Father, that you've got an answer for this. Because that activates the angels working with the Father. Because people have said who've been to heaven, people say, Sheila hasn't even been to heaven yet. I don't ask to go, and I don't have to see that. Like, I'm with him. And so in this process, in following him, we are with him, and then he tells us how to work with each other. And that's what we've been missing, because the enemy makes it that, you know, if Jesus loves you, he'd come and help you out of this. You know, where is he in your life? What's he doing in your life? Because we as people are in this Gentile worship and their feasts and festivals, and we don't even know the relationship we could have with a loving father. That's what's different for me too, because I grew up, I had the laundry list. I used to pray all the time, and I would tell God how well he's doing on Sheila's list. Who did I think I was? But that's how I was raised. Seek the Father. Ask him. He's in all things. He'll provide all things. I I thought I had it all figured out. So I pray that everything that I share that I've gone through, and the reason I don't share the deep, dark things is because I don't live there. And if people want to know how bad it is, I could probably give some examples and how bad it was, but I don't even live there because I stand in awe of who he is, because I can't believe who he has built me to be. When I look in the mirror, I don't see somebody who's written 21 books. I'm just a child of God with him, and I'm wanting to know who he wants me to bless today, and don't let me miss an opportunity to bless, because when I stay in that blessing cycle, I'm not going to go back in the depths of where I was when I didn't know how to live in a blessing cycle with the Father. So the shift for me is what I'm now witnessing in America. More and more people are asking and thanking, asking, is it, what else can I do now? Because now we're doing this in our community, Sheila. Now what else can we do? I'm getting feedback from people that they are awake to these things. But it's been teenagers since 2016, when the first book came out in the series, that have wanted their parents to watch my interviews and buy the books and use the books for homeschooling. It's the teenagers that said that. And there goes my heart. 64 million abortions of children bringing messages direct to us from the Father didn't get to come and do it. Aborting the missions of the Father for the sake of the people. 64 million is a big part. What are we in America? 324, 327 million? And that's everybody, all the ages. And 64 million didn't come because people thought it was a law and they allowed it to keep happening. And it was never a law, never became a law, never became a requirement. And we didn't fight it. So until we come to this point and we start seeing now that there are people in this country who want to destroy this country, they want to take over this country and do it the way their country is, but they don't want to go back and live in their country. We're finding that they want the benefits of what they call the American dream, but they want to destroy the American people's lives in order to get their dream. It doesn't work that way. So my prayer is that we begin to see how they don't have the right concept. And by saying, I'm not even going to talk to those people because they're angry people. Jesus spent all of his time with those people. He tried to work with the leaders in the synagogue, and you see how that happened. They're the ones that sent him to the cross. He didn't spend his time, and people go, Sheila, I can't believe the people you were meeting with this weekend. Do you know what those people really think? And I said, well, they thought about it that way before the weekend. They said, what do you mean? I said, that's why I was there. But what do you think you did? I said, you should have seen their faces. Because when you don't know truth and truth shows up, people's lives change. And I'm not trying to say it's me, because I thank Father for filling me as an empty vessel. All of this is scripture. I'm not a Bible scholar, but he has taught me, and I say, put your truth so deep in me that all that comes out of me is your truth. And still, there are moments when I'm still just Sheila, talking in Sheila mode. but I'm doing it to God. I'm not doing it to other people. I'm doing it to God. When he told me Panama Canal is 44 and World Courts is 45, and he wanted me to research it together, I said, God, there's no way to research it together. The World Courts are like the Hague Courts. It's like way over here, okay? And Panama is over here, and Panama is way down here from America, and taking
Mm-hmm.
America into the World Courts is a different subject. And so he's letting me say all of this. And when I got done, this is how funny it is, and this is why I have so much fun with God, but I keep forgetting and going into Sheila mode. And he said, after I got all done telling him how different it is and how it doesn't relate and how they're different, I have to research it different. And you just need to understand Sheila, right? All he said was, you can try doing that, but all the research is together, Sheila. I'm like, what the heck? And when you look at the book, all of the legal reviews are what? It's all merged together. Because
Mm-hmm.
what? It's all related. He knew that. So instead of just saying, okay, Father, is there a reason why I'm researching like that? Instead, I go into Sheila mode. I'm explaining to God where Panama is located. I become so Sheila, I just can't even, I just can't even imagine what it's like for Father hearing me go into this
Mm-hmm.
mode. But that's what happens. So please don't think that I'm this perfect person and I'm this great example. I am living my life just like all of us are. I'm learning it just like all of us are. And I am going to keep giving the truth to people. I don't care the cost. And you've seen that in all the attacks I've had. And I don't even share the attacks I have in emails that come into me. I need your help in this situation. And I've already written to you about this situation, and you aren't helping me yet. I'm helping in prayer that the Father guide you through that situation. Because when people write in and want Sheila's opinion isn't going to get you anywhere. But I will help guide you to get the Father's opinion to get tight with Him, because that's the only opinion that matters. That's the only answers that matter. And we've been listening to humans, and that's how we became programmed. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of on a rant right now, but it all
No,
dovetails together because God does this. He wraps it all up in a bow because we've been programmed so long. I cannot let you have Sheila Holm program you to want to think and speak and act like Sheila Holm, because Sheila Holm is just a person. It's the Father inside. And that's what took me a long time when people acted like they really, really loved me. I thought it was so wonderful. It's that they heard the Lord through me, so they
Mm-hmm.
loved him, and it was his love they felt. It was just coming from me. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I hope I
totally.
got that.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
And
Totally.
I can tell you everything that you've brought up, Sheila, resonates with me. I know it resonates with Anna. I mean, Anna and I have known each other for going on 5 years now. And on Telegram, we used to stay up for days doing research together in groups. And I firmly believe that the Father, our Creator, has called many of us, and only some of us answered the call. And this is, in my eyes, the Great Awakening has so many layers to it. It's also about taking a look at yourself and your life and how you've done things in the past, and have you been happy about, you know, if you're not in good relationship with the Father, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It really doesn't, because that's not going to make you happy. It's being in with him, in him, and being of service to others. I don't know. I know I've heard you before say this. I'm very much the same way. I get more out of giving than I do out of receiving. I don't feel good at receiving as I do giving. And to be of service to one another is such an honor in my eyes, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And this great awakening that we are in is learning that for not just 10, 15, 20 years, or even since 2016, you've taught us that this goes back way, even before Abraham Lincoln. This goes back into the biblical times, that we are living in a times where we're saying no more. We're not living like this anymore. We're not going to do this enslavement anymore. We're going to be close to God our Father, and we're going to turn this earth into heaven on earth, and we're going to eliminate all this evil. And you've said this before, and it resonates with me. So many people want to rebel, and we want to go in, we want to do this, and we want justice, and I want to see executions. I want to see all this. This whole process is all about saving souls. And you've said it so elegantly, is that we can't do that. And we've seen what George Floyd happened. We can't have another George Floyd. We have to do this plan, this Q plan that the military and Donald Trump has done. It's very meticulous. Juan has told us and taught us so much in this journey. We're doing this so that we have less harm, less injury, and less deaths. And because of the MK altering, the lies and the deceitfulness that the devil has done to us, we have to break that egg softly. We just can't crash it. So I just wanted to say that.
Anna,
Sheila,
you're always quiet. Oh,
oh, no,
good,
no, no. Yeah,
good.
I was, yeah, no, I'm always quiet. Yeah, I'm always quiet, right,
Yeah.
Sheila? Yeah, but well, I'm a chatty Anna, but when I'm here with you and with both guys, I try to absorb as much as possible. But I was going to ask you, for me, it's everything you say, I'm always like, yes, yeah, because I very much experienced this relationship close to God. I joke that I don't exist. And people said, "Oh, are you an AI?" They asked me here in Brazil, "Are you AI? Are you a character? Are you really you?" No, it's because it's not me here. It's not me here. Well, when I'm listening to you, I'm totally listening to you. But when I talk to people, it's a force inside myself that makes me bigger, expanded, and the best comes out of me. And then I realize that I know everything. I have total control of this, but at the same time, I don't have, and it and I allow it because it's him through me, and it's a sea. It's a music. I'm always telling it's a music. You have to dance this music, and that's why I try not to interrupt you, because I know you have the same and even more uh, than I experienced, and I'm always like, oh, wow, Sheila, and but I'm not always quiet. I try to respect you because I truly admire you a lot. And but yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think women have this ability or this easiness? Does it exist, this word, this easiness to achieve this tune? Or do you feel, because I feel very much here in Brazil, a lot of men um, looking for and experiencing. Like here, we have two gentlemen with us, and they are talkative. They are talking out loud their emotions. Do you think this whole process with God, this relationship with God, it's a women thing, easier, or men are? Do you do you get my question? Do you think it's balanced, or how do you see it? I think it's
Um, God gave me an answer on this.
Mhm.
Did I ever tell you guys about the time when they wanted me to be one of the three people going around commissioning apostles around the world, and they were starting with 1,000 megachurch pastors?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And did I tell you that the gas tank was empty and I had no money and I
Yes.
Yeah,
didn't get the blessing?
yes.
Did I
Yes.
tell you that halfway down from above Santa Rosa, which would be stopping for gas 2 or 3 times by the time I get back to San Diego, um, that God filled the tank before I got on the freeway and the gas tank stayed full for the next 10 days? Did I tell you that?
Yes, you
Did I
did.
tell you that he stopped me halfway down because he couldn't take it anymore? And he said, I want you to pull over and we need to have a talk. And I said, well, there's no gas station to get a cold soda. He had to remind me that I didn't have any money to get a cold soda anyway. It was July of 99. It was so hot. And when I pulled in, um, I went into the glory cloud and people always told me they saw the glory cloud in the church and I never saw anything. And there was no glory cloud because once he started showing me being in the glory with him, it's like the most gorgeous, white, bright cloud all around you, and you don't notice or see anything else. You don't hear anything else. You're just totally with him. And so he drew me into that. I don't even know how I parked the car. And he said, you need to get out paper and write this down. He said, not enough of my men are getting up and putting on their steel-toed boots. I had no idea that had to do all the way back to flaming arrows with army boots, right? I didn't know any of this. So I'm having to call forth my women, even my widows and my orphans, to prepare my army to march with me before and he gave me a big capital SON scripted RISE. I was so dumbfounded about that whole thing because America in 99 was still only men could be leaders in the church, only men could have the voice and the whole thing in the scripture is that what used to happen they still do it in some churches today, and that's why some churches that I've helped, I never know if there's a husband and a wife together because they have all the women on one side of the church and all the men on the other. And that scripture in the Bible is about don't be talking across to each other during fellowship. Don't be doing that. But it wasn't that women weren't supposed to have a voice. But when I've shared that word, and when I shared it with the man who didn't leave the blessing, that's when he told me the story and the vision of what God told him about me. And this is what you're noticing, Mike, and when you're noticing, Jim, and what you've talked into. He saw me as the mouse to the elephant, gnawing on the back ankle. And he stayed on that back left ankle. I ran over to the right, couldn't get that to happen. I'm swinging on the tail, can't get the elephant to move. I go up and bite on the left ear, yell in the ear, you've got to move, move. I kept saying move. And he said, then you're going over to the right ear, biting on the ear and telling the elephant to move. And the elephant got so annoyed, the elephant moved. And God told me that's the body of believers, and you're going to get them to move. Because the church is not what the church is in America. The pilgrims knew that the fellowship had to match the alignment with the scriptures and the feasts and festivals of the Lord, which are in Leviticus 23. And then he added Hanukkah 70 days after the birth of Christ on Feast of Tabernacles, because there were 70 nations. And so 70 days later, there's that. Everything in his feasts and festivals matched absolutely everything perfectly. They knew and they had it all mapped out, and they banned all of that because they knew if they didn't ban it, the tyranny would be right back because that's the other kingdom. Gentile worship is the other kingdom, and there's only two kingdoms. We've already gone over that. So, in this process, getting the body to move is what I've absolutely seen in the last 2 to 3 weeks. When I started talking about even the leaders in our states and nationally are people who are not natural born Americans, aren't documented Americans. They are foreign nationals who are here and they're still undocumented. Okay. And so when I started revealing all of that, I saw all sorts of movement of people that, whoa, now I know. We have to go to voter registration. We have to know who these candidates are. We've got, because the wrong people have been in all these positions because everybody just wanted the Dominion machines to be handled with something. Dominion machines, that's our problem. Dominion machines. They were filing cases against Dominion machines. Those machines didn't commit a crime. Being hooked to the internet was a crime. Operating our election and manipulating it from different nations around the world, those were crimes. But that machine didn't commit a crime. And so we have been living our lives on the terms of the enemy, by the enemy controlling the narrative and the conversation, while we've been losing our nation. We thought we could trust the people who were operating with people in other nations, giving them money, getting some of the money back, all this whole money flow, the laundering, everything else. We couldn't see any of that because we trusted people that we didn't know. We trusted people. We didn't know their families. We didn't know their background. We didn't know what they do to children. We didn't know. I mean, all this is just such a shock to us. But the Pilgrims had a plan. And that's what's the difference about America. The Pilgrims knew because of the Apocrypha that the tribes, Father lifted up the water and the tribes walked for a year and a half. And they started getting to land. But some of them kept going and went to other land. Father helped them. There wasn't silt, it wasn't mud. It was just like when he parted the Red Sea. You didn't see him slopping around in mud. You didn't see some water sipping back. None of that happened. When Father does it, he prepares it for his people and they go. Now he told them, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then what happened when the last feet got on the soil on the other side? It all filled in a moment. No hesitation. Do you know to this day, the wheels of the chariot can be seen? And now there are people trying to lie because when he separated the water and provided a pathway, and all those chariots went through, the chariots, the horses, the men, all of it dead right there. Now they said, oh, look, the soil is higher. Now the sand moves all the time. But Father, in the miraculous way, it's higher there because all of that happened there. And even though the sand moves within, it's higher, the soil, the sand is higher there because there's still chariot wheels. There's still evidence of what happened then to this very day. There are pictures where some of the chariot wheels still have some gold on it. Well, how is that possible with sand scratching against it all these years? But it's the evidence of the witness of what happened. And he caused these things to happen. And the Pilgrims knew they had to do this. And not only were they being boiled in oil, the fathers, just like the killing the fathers ever since, of the families to break the families. You'll see all this in the points. The fabric of the family, you destroy that, and your nation cannot be united. And that's what they've done to us. The generations are fighting with the generations. And I hear more and more things in films and everything about, oh, I'm really glad I didn't have a relationship with my mother and father because all of it is a separation of the family. So to have these pieces of witness, to have the stone pile in Baldwin, Georgia, and look up Baldwin, Georgia's website. The word Baldwin means stone pile. That's the stones of remembrance of the Cherokee. And the reason it was in center of town, the center of their gathering, was the Creek Nation and the Cherokee Nation. That was their nation line. And so they put the stones there when the Cherokee were pushed, and they were pushed right away because it was a Cherokee that fought it in the Supreme Court. Do you see? But every time there's a group of truth speakers, They're destroyed, killed, taken out, sent to prison, put in hard labor camps. That's how people become silent majority. And that's where we've been all of history as believers since the garden. Even when Noah's Ark landed, it's a fairy tale to think everything was rosy and wonderful. Father made it clear, it's in scripture. Noah was the only righteous one. That's why he had me put Titus 1 in the new book, is that in Titus 1, is you need 2 elders who are never going to comply. They're never going to get into grifting from other people. They're never going to deceive the people. Because what we've got, and I've asked all of these pastors, and you know what they tell me about the feasts and festivals of the Gentiles versus the feasts and festivals of the Lord? We knew all of that. They told us about all of this in seminary, but who wants to ruin the memories of the traditions of celebrating Santa, trees, decorating, all of those memories and traditions? We don't want to mess up all those memories and traditions of the people. And I just looked at him and I said, the people want to know the truth. You're not giving them the truth. And Father is truth, so who are you representing? And not one could answer. In all of these years, not one pastor could answer me. Because in seminary, they knew the truth. We're told the truth, but we're told to keep up these traditions and rituals. And that's what has America where America is today. That's going to be the biggest shift in all of this, because they don't want us united as believers. Because when it happened in Ephesus and they all became Ephesians who became believers, they weren't people of Ephesus anymore. They were Ephesians. They weren't people in Corinth. Those people out there in Corinth, they were Corinthians.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're at now is, are we willing to be the Americans that Father gave the land to? When he sent the tribes here, and they walked for a year and a half. And they didn't just walk here. It's the First Peoples of Canada. I'm not trying to, people keep saying she's only focused on America. God stopped my international travel, and it's been only America. And now when people say, well, Sheila, there really is no COVID thing now, you could still go out there and travel. I have no interest in being anywhere except here, because if we don't get this done right, and I don't mean just get it done, I don't care when the main parts of it get done, I don't care how long it takes. Because even after we take the major issues and get them handled, it's going to be decades to handle all the disruption of everything else in our country. They're just finding out now. We just got a report today. Auto mechanics. Do you know, bringing the auto industry here? We don't have enough skilled, trained auto mechanics. We don't
400,
have
we're
people who
missing,
know the manufacturing process anymore because we gave it all up.
yeah, we're missing 400,000 skilled auto mechanics is what they're saying. 400,000.
Mm-hmm. And when I mentioned natural fabrics, and I'm working with that guy on just doing cotton, just doing a shaping fabric out of rubber plant. I mean, all the wonderful things that are happening. And do you know what people want? They want to know Sheila's sources so they can start a list of sources of natural fibers. We can't do anything until these people put this together. And this man's willing to do it himself. He's willing to fund it. He's willing to do all these things. I'm just looking for enough cotton because we already have the process. And I can't give up his intellectual properties on how he's doing this. He's already got it all figured out. He's already got patents on everything. He's all set, but we gave up the whole industry.
Sheila, President Trump just put a video out on hemp, and I shared it with Mike and Anna. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but that that post was all about hemp, and all hemp was taken out of the production. And I just found out this morning that our Constitution was written on hemp paper.
We've all heard about the major systems in our bodies, like the digestive, respiratory, nervous, and cardiovascular systems. But there's one essential system discovered in the 90s that you probably never heard of. It makes all of the other systems work smoothly with each other, like a conductor ensuring the different sections of an orchestra all play a beautiful symphony together. This system is called the endocannabinoid system. It has been acknowledged and studied by scientists extensively with support from the National Institutes of Health. As we age, the system weakens. As a result, the different systems in our body stop working together smoothly. That's one of the reasons older adults struggle with pain, inflammation, cognitive decline, and other ailments of aging, for which doctors often prescribe dangerous and addictive pharmaceuticals. They also recommend lifestyle remedies, such as exercise, good diet, and stress management. And while all these improve the system, it is only fractionally and over a long time. But here's the game changer. The system can be restored faster using hemp-derived CBD. When the system is restored, pain subsides, sleep is improved, and stress is reduced. When the system is restored, disease progression can slow down, and years are added to your life, as well as years spent in good health. And 20% of seniors are already using CBD today for pain, arthritis, cancer symptoms, sleep disorders, Alzheimer's, and many other ailments of aging. But doctors are not equipped to provide guidance, and there are no FDA standards for what is already in the market today. Imagine if that were the case for other medications. Older adults are suffering needlessly. Hemp-derived CBD can help them feel better, live longer, and improve their quality of life significantly.
A PricewaterhouseCoopers report estimates annual cost savings for the U.S. nearly $64 billion a year if cannabis is fully integrated into the healthcare system.
The groundbreaking 2018 Farm Bill, championed by President Trump, was the first step. Now it's time to educate doctors on the endocannabinoid system, provide Medicare coverage for CBD, and give millions of seniors the support they deserve. You will deliver the most important senior health initiative of the century, cementing your legacy and transforming aging care. Millions everywhere will thank you.
That's perfect. Did you know why they told us that we had to get all the lead paint off of our walls? And so everybody tore all the, changed the sheetrock and everything, spent all this money and got rid of all the lead paint? The
Yeah,
reason why our ancestors used lead paint is so they couldn't come in from the outside and do viewing and see what's happening inside the houses and do the surveillance that they want to do. It wasn't about children weren't going and eating the sheetrock or licking and eating the paint off the walls. And
no.
yet we fell for it and did all of this repainting and we've got to get rid of lead paint. Lead paint's going to kill us. You know,
Mhm.
everything they've told us is a lie. I mean, I could spend 3 days solid with you guys and just tell you all of the lies they've told us that have sent us down this pathway. But
Look
this
at,
slippery slope continued because we complied. And people keep thinking, well, I didn't comply until you guys told me not to comply with the vaccines, and then I didn't comply with the vaccines. But yet, look at here we are in 25, and I have yet to be driving by a CVS or Walgreens. I don't see people in line.
Yeah.
I have yet to be at the grocery store where they have a pharmacy division where people are making appointments to come in. And now they're getting the combo of the flu shot that we never needed every fall either. And now it's a combo with the COVID shot. And just today or yesterday, the president put out a notice about the 72 vaccines of children and that they just had hepatitis B that you cannot even receive unless you're having sexual contact with intimacy with other people, that our babies are no longer going to have the Hep B vaccine. He got that one of the 72 that they really don't need. God sends us here as perfect. And everybody goes, how did you resist all this? How did you not go to the hospital when your oxygen was below 50? I mean, there were so many mornings that I was barely at 50. And they said, you're going to have brain issues. And I said, no, I'm not. God's got this. Well,
Yeah.
Sheila, you can't have oxygen at that level for long periods of time or you're going to have brain issues. Well, anybody witnessing any brain issues? And I was
No.
6 months, and if I wouldn't have been in the high 80s, if I would have been in the high 80s, it would have put me on the ventilator. And
Mhm.
you have to be in the low 90s to be able to go in the hospital and just get medication. But the thing is, they knew what they targeted us with, that we weren't going to be able to have oxygen and we were going to need their help.
Mhm.
Now, why did I not go to the hospital? Here's God's miracle. That corporation they destroyed in a hostile takeover and ruined everything around about me and every asset and every account and just stole it all again and again and again and again without
Mhm.
authority, personal and corporate. It was a
Yes.
medical legal evaluation corporation.
Yeah.
When I found out direct from the people that they knew what they were doing to Americans, I pulled away.
Mhm.
I didn't have insurance during that whole time. Since 1989, that was my last medical exam when I found all this out. I've not had a medical exam and I didn't have insurance the whole time. And people kept saying, well, you should have that traumatic insurance, that special insurance, so that if you have an automobile accident and something horrible happens to you and you're going to have to go to the hospital. I said, why would I have to go to the hospital? And they said, what do you mean? You'll probably break bones or something. I said, I'll go to a surgery center and be home back home that night. Well, what do you mean? And people still cannot understand that I could go through all of this and never have the insurance or anything. And then what did God do? I reached the point where I could have Social Security. So I took it early. And I took it early to have that insurance and not do Obamacare. The timing and everything Father has done. And I tried to be an example to other people. And now people are just finding out 2.5 million he made a year off of the royalty rights of the Obamacare name. 2.5, and he's still receiving it. We had no idea. But you remember the 2400 page something had all the FDR stuff on the back? Because people were so scared then that they were getting gold and silver and et cetera then, and they were still promoting it in the later years. And I told Christian organizations to quit promoting it. They said, why? And I said, because in the FDR executive order that he renewed, because it's on the back of the page, and that's why the president said you have to repeal it and what was it? Repeal it, and what was the second word? Um Repeal and replace. He said you have to repeal and replace the whole thing. It's all got to be repealed and replaced. And they refused to do it because they knew they had all these things on the backs of pages that we would be responsible for. And FDR made it that if you have more than $600 worth of gold, that's back in the 1930s,
Mm.
that you would owe a $10,000 fine and all of it would be confiscated. And that's in there it was the Affordable Care Act. So how did he end up getting royalties when it was called Obamacare? Because Obama, it wasn't his care process. And it was the Affordable Care Act is what it was, but 1,400 a month for insurance. You see, if I had not gone through exactly the path that Father had me on, and when I went through that and couldn't get a job, Father arranged for me to help the arts in San Diego. I started Combo Connection, bringing business people, and the final dress rehearsals, I was selling out the whole night. Then I would do a potluck catered food beforehand, and the money from that would go to the organization also. So I was helping the arts organizations doing the first videotapes. And when I did all of that, then I was going to be a reporter on ABC News. And the day I was supposed to get that job, I bought the new suit with the last money I had, got my hair done, got everything all fixed up. I go to the station, and the acting news director, who used to be the assistant news director, was told he wasn't going to be acting anymore. They were bringing somebody in from San Antonio, so he went to Bakersfield. And I'm like, the rug is being pulled out for me again, guy. Can you imagine if Sheila Holm got involved in the media industry?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if Sheila Holm would have stayed in the medical industry? Can you imagine if Sheila Holm? So when people say all this horrible stuff that Father did to you, but I can absolutely tell you that Father let me know it, hear it, see it, experience it, and move on. So everything, I was in that corporation, we were going gangbusters. It was my retirement. I was there from 6:37 in the morning till 10:30 at night and carried a briefcase home. But when I got to the house, sometimes I couldn't even carry it in. I was so tired. And then I would carry it back to the work the next day. My life was that. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be my retirement, but that was a medical industry that I did not know the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know the corruption of the media, being a news reporter. That picture was going to be taken that day with that new suit for a 5-year contract. And I said,
Wow.
this was going to be my income. I don't get that income either. And people go, oh, I just can't believe all this horrible stuff happened. Guys, he showed me, let me experience it, let me hear the truth about it, let me know all the ways that they're doing this. When the identity theft happened to me, it was the National Association of Consumer Credit Bureaus in the main office. I think they're in DC. I'm in communication with them. And do you know what they told me? We're a consumer reporting agency. I said, there's 80 to 100 people that have copies of our Social Security numbers. Do you not get that you're merging everything for Social Security records and IRS records? And when you guys do this, and if we're born on an odd or even year, I proved all of it. When you merge that, that's how we end up with an identity theft, because all of their bad credit shows up on my report. And then you want me to clean it up, and you want me to pay it as a citizen, because even after I remove it, you put it back on. That's why I wrote the second law, is to have it removed and not be able to come back on in 30 days. Once that's removed, it cannot come back on. That's the one thing I accomplished. They still aren't getting arrested, but at least I stopped the bad credit keep coming back, because all you do is you stay in that cycle of fighting it. So when Father showed me all of that, no, all we're doing is reporting what consumers give us. That's all we're doing. Like, I'm not responsible. They're the National Association of the Consumer Credit Bureaus, watched all of this happening and chose not to take a single moment in it. So I went to attorneys and I said, what could I do? I went to the top guy recommended to me in LA. He said, let me tell you how this whole justice system works. Any government issue, and guys, this is for us today, any government issue you want to fight to a government department, they're all protected. Anything you want to do with the credit bureau, they're all protected, because did you know that the House Counsel of our Congress is also House Counsel of Federal Trade Commission advisor and to the credit bureaus? It's all connected. And when I started reporting their data, they quit reporting their data. When I put it in the law and I put it in my book, they quit reporting it. So he said, let me tell you what you can do. You've already lost tens of thousands of dollars. And you think by filing a case you're going to recoup some of that? And I said, well, they broke the law. He said, well, let me tell you what I can do. I'll take it to court and I'll win. Might cost you 30, 50, 80,000, maybe more. So it's going to be on top of the tens of thousands that you've already lost. Now, guys, he was explaining this to me in the early 90s. Okay. And it's still a crime to this very day. And he said, once you spend all that money with me and I win that case, you're forgetting that they have full-time law departments. Those attorneys are paid whether they fight you or not. So it's nothing to them to string you out for the next 10 years. Because after you win, you don't win anything until you collect. and they're never going to let you collect. They know they're working against the law. They know this, and this is what is explained to me about our justice system in the early 90s. But I was so upset by the third or fourth Social Security number change, I was going to get it fixed. Father was going to help me. And Father did help me because he always brought the truth to me. So I knew the whole situation. Because I would have been willing to do whatever it took to raise that money to make these people understand that they are not helping Americans. They're helping the illegals have all these benefits and the American dream, and the Americans are losing every step of the way. I'm sharing this with you because people say, well, I really don't know what this woman went through, and I don't know how to explain it. To people, can you tell me anything that Sheila's gone through that could explain to people how she learned all these things? And I don't want to take people through the process. And it's not important to go through. In fact, when people keep saying, well, didn't you want to do this or this? I said, I'm not going any lower. I'm not going to let them take me any lower because I've already gone so low that I didn't want to be here 3 times. I wanted Father to accept the fact that I found an easy way. I could just do this, this, and this, and be gone and be back in heaven by tonight. And that means take my own life. And I didn't look at it as taking my own life. I looked at it as they're going to just keep killing every idea. They're going to keep pulling the rug out from under me. They're going to keep making sure I can't have an income because I didn't have an income for 30 years.
Wow.
Couldn't get an income for 30 years. And so, because you couldn't work in America, because I didn't know that my record was merged the whole time, that they had me keep starting a new record. So everything I earned was to get another place to live, get a different car, get a different address, go into DMV, take another picture. I mean, the whole process was every single ID change, 25 pages of my federal grand jury filing of key documents. Every one of them had the driver's license, social security number, blah, blah, blah.
Sheila, excuse me for interrupting you, but when you come and you are a very an incredible voice for the world right now. That's how I see you, and with all the books, and you're very vocal on your own experience. So I'm a bit younger, and I am very vocal as well with my experience. My own experience is my is I was witnessed. I was a witness for every situation. I can talk about the corruption because I was there. I worked for UBS Warburg for 2 years here in Brazil in 2001, and I could see the numbers. I could see where the payments were being done. I was placed inside the human resources area, so I knew every benefit the executives here in Brazil had in the past. So um, I don't know why people feel so difficult to consider their own experience, their own lives as the proof of of the of of the proofs you are presenting here. And as you said, I regret it because I was not hired to I was an intern, then I could be hired, but I wasn't. I were not. The bank was downsizing here in Brazil, already downsizing, and then I felt, oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm not. And when I understood what was going on by 2001, 2002, when I understood what was going on, I said, thank God I'm not part of the system. And I think the main one of the big things that everyone is being exposed right now through their own lives is that we are all committed to the structure, some way or another, more or less. Unless you step up, you stand up and you step ahead, you can be here talking and having your voice out loud, as you are doing through the books and through the interviews all over the world and through the meetings you have. I am doing the same here in Brazil with many people, and I think the silent majority, we were silenced, but we kept talking all over the world. I talked to the people I know. I was not raised to be a rebellious, but I am the black sheep of the family, and I was always the best daughter, the best granddaughter, the best everything. And I'm the rebellious one. And I don't place myself as a rebellious, but I'm very vocal. And I get sometimes I question, why do people feel that difficulty on having their own lives as the validation they need for this whole process? Am I making myself understandable? I hope I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah,
Eh,
there's a great video I shared with you, Anna, and with you, Mike, that shows, this exact thing that you're talking about, and that is people are so conditioned, and it starts with our school systems. We're always told when we can talk, when we can't talk, when we can get up and go to the bathroom, when we can't do this, when we can't do that. We've been conditioned from little children that we have to follow along with everyone else. And this video that I shared with Mike, and maybe Mike, this is a good spot to put that in. It shows the bell where they had three actors sitting there, and they brought someone in and sat next to them, and they hit this bell, and the three actors stood up, and the person that didn't know what was going on just stood up just because. And then they hit the bell again, they sat down. The guy sat down. And they did this like 3 or 4 times. And these people that didn't know anything that was going on, they kept conforming, like Sheila's talking about. They just did it because everyone else did it.
Everyone else that's brought in is a genuine shortlisted applicant. They've been given no instructions other than to fill out their forms. My team and I were secretly watching from another room. The more socially compliant a person is, the more they're likely to look to others for signs of how to behave.
This is going to be your spot.
And the more people, the greater the pressure to join in. In this case, whether to stand or sit. Those people that didn't follow the crowd were removed.
I think we have to lose Amy, sadly.
Amy, come with me.
Once we had a full house, we got rid of the actors, leaving us with a room full of compliant people standing up and sitting down, even though nobody told them to do this. The three people on the left are actors. They've been briefed to stand or sit when they...
Isn't that crazy? I mean, when you think about it, and you think about everything that you're talking about, Sheila, and then you get into COVID and the shots and the compliances, and even with the court systems and everything that we've done, we're just told to conform and just do what everyone else does and just don't create any waves. And a lot of this refers back to Tina Peters. I mean, Tina Peters stood up for what she believed is right when no one else wanted to, and this is what they do: they punish you. If you don't conform to their way of training, their way of conforming and taking your rights and your freedoms away. This is what they've done to us, and this is why we got to fight this. So I'm glad that we shared that video because it's a great illustration of how the social what's the word I'm looking for, the pressure, the peer pressure of doing what everyone else does takes over what's real actually happening.
It's the conformity. I mean, that's
Yes.
the conformity, right?
Well, that's why they went from personnel to human resources. Anna, I didn't realize we have the exact same background. I
Oh,
don't know.
you
I
do?
never share what I did before the corporation. I marketed for some people because they were in the red so bad, and to get them into the black. And I wanted to change work comp. And it comes out of being a human resources director. Well, at the beginning, I was a personnel director to the point of internationally being on the Council of Personnel Officers globally. So, and then I became the president of the San Diego Human Resources Society. It used to be the Personnel Association. I had to go back and take some human resources courses. I had no idea that it was going to change from person being important to just being a resource. And that's when the layoffs started. So exactly what you went through, I went through the same thing with the people. And I couldn't do it anymore, but I took enough classes to get another degree in human resources in order to be a human resources director, and not realizing it wasn't about people anymore. They're just
No,
resources. And
agent.
so you can lay
Yeah.
off 350 of them or 480 of them, or, that sort of thing. And then when I did the year contract with Blue Shield, which I've told you guys, I think that's when the John F. Kennedy guy that went to Vietnam and studied it for him, he was a human resources director. But I just had a 1 year contract to do specific things for Blue Shield. And so when I did that, and all the layoffs and all the things and all the closures of how they could just do that to people. When it started out with Ford, and he built communities and built houses, and the people lived in the houses near the factories. Okay. And then he's the one that created weekends off, 2 days in a row off of work. He created that too. And so he was doing those kinds of things, even though I know guys that he was already tied into secret societies and everything else. I know all of that about him, but he did these things for people. So we went from that kind of a society that cared about people having a house and having a vehicle and having the money to live on and giving them a solid wage and all that kind of thing. And when work comp was so fraudulent, and I thought it was just California because that's what I knew was California, I didn't want people to have to go through what they went through with the injury because they needed to work under the table to put food on the table. And that's why I started the corporation, because I couldn't do it the way other people were doing it. And so I didn't know if you knew, but as you were describing your
No.
whole background, and I was a golden girl on both sides of the family. My mom's Scottish, English family, half half, and dad's 50% was 100% Norwegian on his side. And so I came from those kind of families, and their divorce was never even mentioned. I mean, all these kind of things, and nobody was losing businesses, and nobody was doing any of these things. And so I ended up becoming the black sheep of the family. It was so funny when you were giving that whole description, but it's where your heart is. And
Yes.
it's the heart of the Father that doesn't want this happening with the people. And when I captured in my mind that I was part of those layoffs, I was part of affecting those people. I was part of, if you're late 3 times, it doesn't matter if your children are sick or anything, you lose your job. Do you know what I mean? I was part of that whole process, and it eats at you and you don't even realize it. So then that's why I was going to do the work comp. But it's because of what Father's been doing in you your whole life. So there's a simple little repentance prayer. It's just, Dear Heavenly Father, I purpose and choose with my own free will to repent of affecting the lives of people and their families by being what they call a human resources director to do these things to families, etc. And then the question is, Father, speak your words of truth to me. And then when you hear what the Father reveals in that, you thank the Holy Spirit for healing every wound, and for filling every hole, because you don't want a hole in your soul. I think we've talked about that before, and healing every wound. And that's what you were talking about, Mike, about these wounds that we think we're living through, but how do they resolve? We never learned repentance. But if we knew the feasts and feasts and festivals of the Lord, you go from New Year to repentance straight through to Feast of Tabernacles in preparation for what? Celebrating that he came. And that's why the big celebration on the 8th day is because he was circumcised and the mother was blessed. Do you see? And so if we knew these things, but we didn't know about repentance, and we didn't know about clearing our slate with the Father, we didn't know about don't have any unforgiveness in your heart, which leaves a hole in your soul. And that's why, and in revealing all of these things, what did President Trump come out with? I've learned how to love the haters.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So as I'm describing this, he's doing these exact same things. And there's no way people keep, I couldn't believe how many people kept saying he was a new Christian. There's no way as being a new believer, because Christian is put on the name of the Gentile worship, not the feasts and festivals of the Lord. We have to correct all of this. The pilgrims knew the truth. We have to come back to the truth, or we aren't going to be able to turn this around. If we're going to keep doing the Gentile worship, and I just sent out my Christmas on Twitter and Truth. I sent out my and I think I put it on Telegram too. And if you send me that one, Jim, that you just did on here, I see it was on Telegram. If you can send it to me by email, I'll put it out on my Telegram of the training the sheeple.
Sure. Yep.
But where was I now with
President Trump loving the haters.
President Trump being a new Christian?
Oh,
He
yeah.
is a believer and operates in 5D, which is the Hebrew understanding of communicating with the Father. And when he puts that out there, then things happen. So as I've already told you guys, when I started communicating the stuff about the 45 points, and at first I was making sure, I thought people were sending everything to him. And then it reached a point where they go, oh, we didn't get a chance to get it to him yet, because he was answering every 3 days. So I would send out a message that I wanted an answer to this, and as could we do something about this for the people? Well, as I was doing the 3 years on the research of the book, and then I would get an answer from him on social media, and then it reached a point where the guy said, I didn't get a chance to get it to him yet. And so do you see what I mean? But he was still answering, because like I said, if I'm thanking Father for resolution to this point to help families not separate the children from the adults, so that the adults' negative influences, especially their parents, do not impact their lives. So they keep saying that we're saving you children from the oppression and negative influences of your parents, when it's your parents and grandparents who train you up and mentor you, which is on the faith monument. That's one of the 4 pillars. The law is equal justice and mercy. Morality, where you look internal, where Christ is in your heart, and that's how you operate. And that brings you around to liberty. And then you keep watching out on the horizon, and you don't let all this deceiving and grifting and all this stuff happen, because you want to live in freedom and liberty. And that's what the truth speakers were saying from the beginning of this country. And that's what point 43 is. Take the colonies over before they're fully self-governing. And now we find out even the territorial governors, before there were states, were all high nobles in the Knights of Pythias, all from Europe, who came after doing it in all these other nations and did it to us, because they couldn't let the people live with the Father in liberty on the land. And that's why they had to move all the Native Americans, who are the tribes of Israel, the lost tribes that disappeared from Assyria. We talked about that. They had to get rid of them because they would give truth to the people coming, because the people coming thought something was going to be different here. And that's what you saw in the soldier monument. That young boy was not peace. He's got a factory job here, but now he'll never see his mom and dad again because he's come over here to have this American dream and he doesn't have anything. So they realized it. And that's why I've said they knew they were never going to have liberty and freedom. We've been living under a deceived illusion. We've been deceived and we're living in illusion that it's all going to be wonderful and everything's going to be great. And we're going to have the American dream. And we let them call our generations millennials. And within 20 years, X, Y, Z. We let that happen. And now Z can't get a house, can't see what I mean? But they made it that way for our children. And this should be a major wake-up call to see that all of these illegal families that are here are getting 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 a month in all these benefits. And they're getting Social Security, whether they're 200 or 300 years old. And Social Security, this is what Elon Musk confirmed on Joe Rogan. They're giving Social Security benefits to birth dates that aren't even born yet. How do you calculate a Social Security benefit to somebody who's not born yet? How do you keep giving money to a Social Security person who's got a birth date from 200, 300 years ago? How do you calculate this, and how do you issue Social Security benefits on a number that's supposed to die when the person dies? So where is the system that's allowing this to happen? So it's not just that, oh my gosh, they're getting the money. Ours is so highly calculated. I mean, mine is so low. I wouldn't even be able to rent an apartment if I had to live on Social Security instead of operating with my father, and my father takes care of me. I wouldn't be able to rent an apartment. That's how low my Social Security is because of what happened.
And Sheila, paying these aliens, those are the aliens that are here, that are in America, and also in Brazil, of course. This is a mercenary army, and that would bring the new that would bring a new civil war in the whole world, because if it's not just American issue. We are dealing with America now. We are portraying that for the whole world, but it's like it's the cover, it's the magazine, it's the main magazine on the stand for the people to watch. It's done in America. Of course, it's done in Brazil. Of course, it's done in Argentina. Of course, it's done in Australia, in Japan, with the lowest numbers of newborns this year that was just released. There are not people in Japan are deciding not to have children. The same, the same, and that never happened. They reached the lowest point, and what I understand is that this is a great exposure for the whole picture. But as Mike is always pointing out, it's for we have to mirror this to us, mirror this back to us, to our lives, to our families, to be best in our families first, to be best for us, so we can understand and comprehend all these numbers. It's like a mirror. It's an Alice mirror hall. You have to. It's all being shown to you, so you can have the reflection in your life and do something out of this. Like Juan said, do something, be something. Come on, why is it so difficult? Like, we are being courageous, faithful, but elegantly we are standing up, like we are doing here. Am I too much, guys?
You're
I'm
describing
sorry.
a repeating pattern.
Yes.
It goes all the way back to the conquerors. Okay. My grandfather would tell me that if they would play the bagpipes at 300 grams, would be on the hill within the hour. Didn't matter what the cause was or the need was. And I said, why 300 grams? And he said, well, back in history, the Campbells and the McDonalds were killing the men in the community, but they were taking over the women and children to themselves to be bigger clans. In Germany, in World War I and II, they were killing people in Germany, residents in Germany. Okay. So they lost all those residents, and they sent all these other German people over here to America and filled in. The rulership of the whole world has all been created out of identity theft. They've come in and become the rulers, and they're not the rulers of those countries. They weren't the ones who loved the people and worked with the people. They came in and took over and controlled and enslaved. Every single nation has been enslaved. That's why when President Trump did that capitulation tour in 2017, and I'll keep going back to that, he had a file folder in his hand. He revealed to them what we had to do, because the same evil that we're witnessing in America has been in control of all of these other nations. The reason why I think he has such a heart, and so does our military, for Venezuela, is Venezuela was the wealthiest country just 20 years ago. And look at where they are now. And that's why how wonderful this is, because he sent all those people back to be able to witness this. All of those people, it was at 600,000 in one day that they sent back to Venezuela.
Yes.
What a powerful time this is for that country to be able to get their feet back on the soil and do things, because you can't go to another country. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere for Americans to go. There's nowhere for Canadians to go. There's nowhere to go. That's why the Commonwealth countries, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, will probably be part of us. Did you know that it was supposed to be America and Canada? These were where the tribes got to first. If they went straight across, they ended up at the port in Savannah, Georgia. And that's why that's why George is named after King George, is that he was the architect of this whole plan. When they were done with him, a little bit of extra arsenic on January 29 of 1820. A little bit of extra arsenic to President Jefferson and Adams in 1826. And then that Monroe will not quit talking about tyranny, so a little bit of extra arsenic in 1831 on the 55th anniversary. And nobody noticed it happening. People became quieter and quieter, knew it was so bad. By 1838, they were bringing the Gentile worship in again and set the churches up from Europe all over across this country, kept bringing in an infiltration of people at high rates to enforce that. States were bringing Christmas and Easter back in 1838 in certain states. By 1870, after the Civil War, they made it a law in America for Christmas and Easter. We've been controlled the whole time, and we didn't think we were. And we were never going into World War II because of World War I, so they had to create Pearl Harbor. We weren't going into any war again, so they had to create these civil wars for us to get involved in. And then we weren't going to do anything else, so then within another 20 years, recycle unto death every 20 years. So then they send us this 9/11 thing happens, and Americans are running to the recruitment offices the next day, signing up to go back and be in another war. Let's go take care of this. But before we came on, we were talking about the hymn, the Marine hymn, to the shores of Tripoli. And look at the history on Tripoli. What was happening there? Trafficking, slave auctions. So Jefferson sent our men over there as the formation of the Marines to the shores of Tripoli to take care of it over there so it doesn't come here. So if you look at the history of the Navy. I'm pretty sure he set up the Navy, then the Marines. But what happens after he's gone? They bring in Charles Joseph Bonaparte as the Secretary of the Navy from France, great nephew of self-declared Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. America has never had a chance because everybody that rises to the top to fight for this country has met with a horrible end. Of the 56 signers, all of this is in the new book. Somebody's even made a burial tombstone to those names and what happened to them. They didn't just kill those men. They killed members of their family. They took over their wives and children, or they killed them. You had a choice. Same as what happened in Europe. Boil the fathers in oil and take the women and children to your own devices. None of this that we are dealing with is new.
No.
It's our choice now because the reason I say I don't care how long it takes, this has to be done right.
Right.
And the 5 or 6 or 7 around the president that he can fully trust are all operating in 5D with him. I have never met these kind of people in my life. And it was so miraculous to just be on a program with Matt Meck, the chief of staff for Juan. And after our hour, I went back in, whatever it was, StreamYard or something, so you can go in like the green room or the backstage or whatever it is. And I stayed on to hear what they were saying. And Matt Meck I've known him since 22. This is now the end of 25, first time we ever did an interview together. And he said, I've never heard someone as close to who Juan is as a female and never in the military. It was just interesting how he would just make that comment. And so I checked with Warren later. I said, did I hear what he said? And he said, you heard what he said. He's never met anyone like you that operates like that except Juan. And that was my request to the Father, is that I could represent him in such a way that whatever the people have need of, let me share it with them so that they get tighter with you. Because every time we fellowship, that's why keep your eyes open, keep your head up, view what's happening in the room. Father will reveal to you who's hurting. He'll reveal to you families that have needs. He'll reveal to you widows that you need to pay attention to, because they knew they would make all these things so hard to open. When I visit with widows, I've got like 10, 12, 15 things I have to open for them. And I'm getting to the point that they're making it so difficult to open, even coffee creamer. It's a heavy plastic thing, and I have to shove a scissor in there to pull that side up to then go over to the sink, because when it pops, it puts coffee creamer all over. And I'm so cautious with it. I still have the strength to do it. The widows don't. But he knew the widows wouldn't be able to deal with www. Blah, blah, blah. And now it's AI phone answering, and they can't even talk to a person. Father knew they wouldn't be able to understand. He knows the end from the beginning. He's done things in my life that I had no idea I needed help with. And all I can say is there isn't a day that I don't stand in awe, and it will just hit me that he has let me be able to help families. And that's why I keep saying in the email responses, we are awaiting your testimonies, because we've got to start reminding the people how amazing this Father is and how amazing this life is with him. Because people are not hearing that, don't understand that. And all they're hearing from is these Christian people who talk religion to them and judge them and say, this is what the Father wants of you, which is why I was kicked out of Sunday school as a child. It's still happening to people. It's still happening to people. And when I said, that is not God, my Sunday school superintendent at my Lutheran church, because Dad was Norwegian, and we only had Lutheran and Catholic church in our town. And so that's what we did. And the superintendent was my piano teacher. I started at 4 years old. I knew this woman wasn't going to have any money. And here she lost her job as a Sunday school superintendent because she stood up for me. And I was in tears, and Dad said, "Why?" And I said, she's going to need us, Dad, because she's not going to have a job because she just got fired from being a superintendent because I flunked Sunday school." And he said, "Well, what did you do?" But it was because it was the wealthiest woman in the community who wore the big hats that pastor had to be cautious of during communion that was my Sunday school teacher. And because they were the biggest donors to the church, they had to fire the Sunday school superintendent because she defended me. We have not grown from there because we're still in Gentile worship. We're still in that problem. And they were still judging the president for being there. And there's no way he would be able to understand the layers with the Father and have the timing and cadence of the Father. There's a cadence to what we're coming through. You're noticing a difference. And then all of a sudden, in the last 48, 72 hours, so much has happened across our nation. It's a miraculous thing. And did you notice in those, some of this was sent to you, Jim? I think they both came today from Jim about Somalia and about the Capitol building, right?
Yes, yes.
So do you want to talk? Because the thing I want to emphasize is the pattern. When they hit the Capitol building, it was 4 a.m. When they were in Minneapolis and did the raid, it was 4 a.m. I'm wondering if it was when they did the raid on Zelensky the week before, it was 4 a.m. That was my question today. God hasn't answered it yet. And I don't know anybody on the team to ask because I don't know who's in handling this in Ukraine. But the door was opened under J.D. Vance and what he did. And the pictures are in my book, the new book, about J.D. Vance reminding Zelensky, "You're meeting with the President of the United States and you're being disrespectful." And he got him to say the words "against us" in the terminology. I don't even know what it needed to be, but J.D. Vance was able to evoke that out of Zelensky, and Zelensky opened the door for us to do the audit. Now that the audit has been done, they knew where things were. The reason why I'm saying this is because, Jim, the things you shared today are the raids on the kind of people that are doing the same kinds of things. And every one of these raids is at 4, and then it says by 4:09 they're doing this, by 4:32 they're doing this. And the 4 a.m. wasn't just in the Capitol building. It was everywhere that woman had worked through an office with her cohorts in the crimes. It was Kentucky, it was Georgia, I don't know all these other states, but do you want to share?
It was in Florida, it was in Detroit. It's astronomical how deep this is. And my take on this is when they come out with these videos, it means that it's already been done. It was done weeks ago, because they went through it, as they're doing it. But the amount of maneuvers that are going on, when people say, we ain't seeing no, if you're not looking, you're not going to find it. And again, it goes back to what we're talking about earlier, Sheila, and that is, we've got to learn how to live sovereign. And being sovereign is being responsible, and being responsible for our own self. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done when this is all completed. My
Well, Jim,
question,
people don't know what happened in the Capitol building. And I think it'd be important if you shared who this person was that you shared with me on the video.
oh
And
God, no,
then
it
if you
caught,
share what was found in the office and that has been going on
well,
since
they've been print.
J6. I mean, it's
Yeah, you caught me because I'm my mind's blank because I was thinking about something else. But um, I posted on my X channel. I mean, they've been printing money, and Juan's been talking about the money that they've been printing, the fraudulent money they've
well,
been.
Jim, I'm sorry, but what I'm meaning is this woman is the highest person doing all the scheduling. doing all of the appointments, doing all of the approval and the registering of who comes in and out of Congress, the Capitol
Yes,
building,
yes, yes,
for
yes,
the
yes,
Speaker of the House. Her
yes.
position was, credibility was at that level. And
Yes.
what happened is she took advantage of having that accessibility, and she was not even registering the people who were coming in and taking advantage of us. And they were coming in and out. But the investigation of this has been so thorough, and what the videos are, and if you send it out on X, and if you could send it to me by email so I could put it out on Telegram. I want to send these out because I think we should go through this one, and I think we should go through the Somalia,
Yes.
because this woman is at that highest point with accessibility to the Speaker of the House. And that
And she,
she's in that position and trusted to review who should be coming in and out, who should be in appointments with our top people, who should have access to these things. And what did she store in there? And then it was even more in warehouses in Kentucky, in Georgia, all these Florida, all these other places. That's all I was mentioning there. But this woman in the Capitol building had the drug paraphernalia in volumes of millions and millions of dollars, and nobody knew. Nobody in Congress knew. And all of this got revealed because of the investigations by the FBI.
yeah, I apologize. I was thinking about the lady that ran the airport in Minneapolis. She got caught too. But
Okay,
the,
that's a Somali one, isn't it?
yes, yes. And
Okay,
then
then let's go through that one.
yeah, this one here, I mean, these people, they've they've infiltrated every aspect of our lives, and most of them, if you take a look at it, a lot of it has to do with our transportation, because that's how they can move children, they can child traffic that, and they can move fentanyl. And the amount of fentanyl that has been recovered, it's mind-boggling, because it would kill millions and millions of us. And the woman that they arrested in Minneapolis, she was very similar to the woman that was, in D.C. She had a smiley face. She was very trusted. She did community work. Everyone loved her. But these people live a double life. They're not who you think they are, and it's very dangerous. We came very, very close to major disasters, and thank God for the Q military and Donald Trump, and everyone that's when they say they have everything, they have every email, they have every text message, they have every phone call. It's the only way they were going to get all these people, and the amount of arrests that are being made and they're putting them on YouTube is astronomical. So I'll share those with you, Sheila. I know I shared them with Mike and Anna, and they're also on my X channel. Mike, maybe we can put that on the bottom of this video. But
Yep.
yeah, it's mind-boggling. So yeah. So Sheila,
Well, and the
we're this
Somali situation in Minneapolis, they came to take over this nation.
Right.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
you know
100%.
what's really interesting? The raid on the politician, the male politician that they did the raid on last week, that politician, when they raided all of those things, it was confirmed that he was saying we just need a little more patience. But immediately after the 26th election, we'll be ready to overtake all of America. We're that organized now. And he had it's all mapped out. And they thought we weren't going to be able to find out what they were doing. And these Somalis came here with that agenda, and they've taken over Minneapolis to the point people are concerned. So Ice Ice Baby came out from the president today. Did you see that from El Donaldo Trumpo? And
I
Ice
did.
Ice Baby were ICE and police and etc. arresting people and they were trying to run, and they got them down on their faces in the snow and the ice and arrested them and handcuffed them and took them away. They're not accepting any of this anymore. And I've been fighting this since the 80s. It's been a disastrous process in America, and I am so thankful now because it just kept getting worse and worse. But they came here, and the students who came here, just like that district superintendent in Iowa, 30 years illegal in Iowa, 350,000 a year job. He has nothing that would have vetted him to be in that position. He's got 2 driver's licenses in Maryland, 2 voter records, 2 social security numbers, none of it's his. He's got college documents, none of it's his, none of it's real. He has nothing to back up getting 350,000 and being a district school superintendent over the most school districts in the state of Iowa, over your children, and Iowa has taken this position, but he's been helped because his driver's license was redacted professionally where it says, "Are you a US citizen?" That's why what I'm trying to help people understand, the layers of this are so pervasive that we can't just start arresting Pelosi and Schiff and think we're making a dent in this process. We have had a shadow process in the background where judges have helped illegals go out the back door knowing ICE is coming to get them because you can't trust the judges. We've got governors, we've got Congress people in the states and national harboring these illegals. We have the whole thing. We're talking going back to Seth Rich. The MS-13 was set up by the DNC because Seth Rich gave the documents over to Julian Assange. And he was taken out by MS-13, and then they just take out the MS-13 guys because there's no connection. Nobody would know that they're never going to be able to go home again. That's how we've been living in America for so long and not aware of it.
Sheila, I'm so glad you brought that up because there's a lot of patriots, and I have patriots that are, been with me for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and now they're getting really pissy because they're like, oh, when are they going to arrest this? We're not seeing this, we're not seeing that. If you really understand this war, and I want everyone to hear my voice in saying this, just what Sheila said, you have to take all these infiltrators out because if we were to do the arrests on Hillary, on Obama, on Brennan, all these arrests that we know are coming, these people were going to destroy our cities. So we have to take these people out first. They have to be dealt with first because we don't want our cities to burn down like George Floyd. And this is how detailed this war is. So all those people that are saying we need to storm the courts and we need to get a militia together and we need to go take out these judges, we need to go do this, that would do more damage than it would good. That has to be done in layers, and you can see it's happening with these arrests that are happening because these judges, just like Tina Peters is dealing with, what I've dealt with, what Sheila's dealt with, what many patriots have dealt with, these courts are corrupt, and they're supporting these Somalians. I mean, they arrested a couple judges already, and then they had a juror trial, and the judge threw the juror trial. These judges are not constitutional, but we have to take all these minions out that are going to do harm in our communities. And if you look at the Somalians and you look at the Muslims and you look at where they get their business, they're in the hotel business, they're in the transportation business. Many of them are truck drivers, many of them own gas stations and truck stops. They're in the key positions where they can traffic all this stuff. And it was all done by design. So all that has to come down. I just wanted to say that.
I I just was reminded by the father, the two things I was going to bring up that I sent out on Twitter that we were going to talk about tonight, we haven't talked about, but you just hit into it, is out on Twitter, I put information out about the 390, 339, 3.9 million, because they said 4 million illegals came into America. They found 3.9 Social Security numbers that were newly issued numbers that were given to illegals during Biden's time frame. And they're trying to say only 4 million people came in this country. And to put it in perspective, back in 98 is when it jumped to 4.5. By 99, it was 9.9. It just kept doubling. And it got to the point that between 98 and 2002, the FTC had crimes that were committed against Americans recorded. This does not include all the people who got Social Security numbers and operated against Americans. These are only people in America who knew to report the crimes to the FTC. And by 2002, I was on about my 8th or 9th Social Security number change and driver's license change. And I didn't know to report any of these crimes to anybody. Nobody told me about the FTC until I started writing the talking points memo and found the numbers. 27.8, I think it is, almost 28,000 or 28 million people had committed crimes against Americans between 1998 and 2002 per the Federal Trade Commission record, and that's on their press release at that time. And that's why I worked so solidly with the Senate Banking and Finance Committee to write the second law, which was going to be the Holm identity theft law. You've seen it in the intro video. So I was going to talk about that tonight because that has gone on. And then there was something else that came up about the Brunson case again this week. And so my friend Dark Knight, he's on Twitter and he's a really good friend of Scotty Martin. I think they know each other and have actually fellowshipped together. I've not fellowshipped together with them, but we're communicating with each other all the time. And their videos are profound. Scotty just has a way of putting it together and he gets it out the same day that the announcements are coming out on the news. And so Scotty Martin, Scotty Films, is somebody that we follow each other. And then Dark Knight. Well, Dark Knight sent this to me because he remembered my interview on Charlie Ward. And I'm going to mention a name. Normally I don't mention a name. But her name is Jan. Her last name starts with an H. So either you know her or you don't know her because it really doesn't matter. And I don't try and emphasize people's names. But I was on Charlie Ward and the message that came out was to give a headline and say, and this is what's wrong with what's going on in podcasting right now, is that they want to give something so critical that they want you to follow them. It's not about the message. It's not about the truth. And so what was stated during this, because the people came on at the same time I was on, so they turned it into a panel. And Charlie was on there, and the statement by Jan was that there was an NDA about the Brunson case. And that people need to know about it because she was with Lloyd Brunson. He showed her the NDA. And when he showed her the NDA, he said he couldn't share it because he has to not release the fact that they've already decided the case. So he can't share it. But she saw the NDA so she can tell the truth to the people. So she goes on to say that it's all been decided and blah, blah, blah. And then it's all going to be good and it's going to happen soon. And you're going to see the announcement and blah, blah, blah. And so Charlie just looks at me and he says, we were going to go to commercial break, Sheila. And I said, I got to say something before the commercial break. And he said, why? And I said, that's not how the People's Court, Supreme Court works. And so I described this. This is all on Twitter, answering and thanking Dark Knight for letting me know this was out there. And I explained what I'm just explaining to you now. And when I explained it, I said, what people don't understand is that in our Constitution in America, the reason why that Cherokee wasn't able to get anywhere by winning that Supreme Court case, so the Native Americans wouldn't have to be forced out of their homes and off of their land. The reason why that didn't happen is because President Andrew Jackson knew that his third goal was to move all the Native Americans on the other side of the Mississippi River. Now he's well known for, and the president's brought it up, tariffs and settling on the economy. He straightened out the economy and did tariffs and everything smoothed out. But those were his first two goals. But his third one is what nobody talks about, and that is that they had to get the Native Americans away from where they were bringing people in, because the Native Americans knew the truth. And so the Native Americans, the Apocrypha was removed from the Bible in 1804 by the British and Foreign Bible Society, and nobody named. And that's what happened in 1804. And in 1804, they started moving them on the other side of the Mississippi. It was all planned. So the Cherokee couldn't win the case. They won the case, but they couldn't do anything about the case because President Jackson, according to the Constitution, only the president, because when there's a ruling, we fell for it. They did 7 cases that acted like it was law from the Supreme Court. All you get from a Supreme Court is a ruling and opinion. That's what you get. You don't get a law. No courts make laws. And that's why the way the courts have overtaken us, you can call it lawfare or whatever, and I don't even know what they call lawfare. When you go into a court case, they use other court case examples to prove why you should be charged. And it has nothing to do with those. It's not taken on the merits of the case. It's based on how these other cases were decided. And that's not law. Law is hearing the truth and putting it in a basis of equal mercy, equal justice. That's the law. And that's it's on the faith monument. So here we come to the Brunson case. And how could you proceed in the Brunson case? I'm giving you more than I did on Charlie because I said all you have to do is look at our Constitution. You can't decide the Brunson case right now because there's other cases related to this, because not only did the Congress not take their oath, the president and vice president didn't take their oath and refused to cure it. And the president has to enforce the ruling or opinion of the Supreme Court for it to have value and go forward. And how can you say that that case is completely decided and it's just on hold? And because why would Biden, or how could he do that? Because what people don't understand is he would have to recuse himself from having anything to do with this because he's also a defendant. And you know what happened right after that? Now, this is in between what Dark Knight sent me. He sent me that Jan said about the case being on a delay. It's in a delay mode because of timing. And so that's not the truth either, because the Brunson case, when that came up, and I wrote back to Loy about that, Rayland came in with a new case. And I don't know if you guys knew that it was a new case. A lot of people only know that all of a sudden 3 Supreme Court justices, who happen to be Sotomayor, Hagan, and that brand new one, Jackson Brown, Kenji Jackson Brown, I think it is, those 3 Supreme Court justices, because of Rayland's new case that came out this last year, that case forced them to recuse themselves because they became defendants in the case. How did that happen? As Supreme Court justices, they couldn't refuse to hear that case or follow that case based on the Constitution, because the responsibility of the Supreme Court as the People's Court, that's our only redress of grievance. We don't even understand the Supreme Court or the People's Court because of that. So I didn't explain all of this in my Twitter response, but I just explained this is what happened on Charlie Ward. And now she came out with this whole new thing. And so they had a video that went with it. And it was like, enough is enough. I didn't go public about it before. I'm going public this time. Because now she said, I talked to Clarence Thomas, and did you know that they still have to delay releasing the decision on the Brunson case? She talked to Clarence Thomas, and a Supreme Court justice said, we've decided on the case, but we have to delay announcing it. That's the same thing as there's an NDA, and the people just can't know yet. But I can tell you about it because I didn't sign the NDNA. If she knew there was an NDNA and it had to do with law and it really happened. But the Brunson brothers are having to answer this all the time because here's what people don't understand. When all of that was happening with the Brunson case and people were wondering why don't they decide the Brunson case? And did you see that they closed out the Brunson case? It's not going anywhere. It can't go anywhere. Well, why can't it go anywhere? I said, because you know what we found? What we found is there is not a judge that has taken an oath. When I had a conversation with International Attorney Todd Callender, I said, you know what? How could those judges in San Diego get away with everything they did to me? Because none of it was lawful. All of it was illegal. I had to prove that it was illegal, and proving that it was illegal didn't even matter. And they got away with all of this. And he said, well, let's see. So they did an investigation. And do you know what happened out of that investigation? Not only did they find that none of the judges, none of the federal judges, none of the judges sentencing J6 military people to prison on misdemeanors and then expanding them, none of those judges have taken their oath, and they chose not to cure it either. So on April 18 of 2023, Todd Callender filed, I think it's in circuit court, could be one of the district courts, but I think it's in circuit court. He filed that case about none of these judges took their oath either. We have an issue in America that's much bigger than the Brunson case, but here's the difference when it's a people's court and the people have brought this to your attention. Because do you know when the last time is we were redressing grievance? Back at the time of the Revolutionary War. Go back and look at Amendments 3 and 4 of our Constitution, and you'll see Americans formed together, raced to the Supreme Court, did a redress of grievance. You keep putting these British soldiers in our home, and they're killing our families. We're not going to put up with this anymore. And so they made an amendment to the Constitution. You can't force people to put the enemy's soldiers in the homes of the people that they're killing. I mean, what a concept. But that was the People's Court, and that was a Supreme Court decision. And 3 and 4 are related, and it was all done at that time. Why do you suppose when Amy Coney Barrett became the Supreme Court justice, you remember how brilliant she was? You guys think I can remember a lot of stuff. That woman remembered legal stuff and court cases and decisions and I mean, that's what judges do. She remembered all this stuff, but when they asked her about the rights to protect for the American people, she couldn't name all of them. What's the one that she missed? She didn't name redress of grievance. Why? Because it hasn't been available to us, because we were told you have to start at the county court, then you go to the state court, and then if you don't win there, then you got to appeal it, and then you might be able to go to the federal court. People don't even go to their state court anymore. But that's in your state. That's the people's court. But you don't just go as, I'm Sheila Holm, and they're really being mean to me. And so could you guys really help me out in the Supreme Court and do something that would benefit me? Supreme Court is a people's court on issues that our Americans are dealing with. Do we have a few of those that we could maybe come together and unite together and take to the Supreme Court? And that's what's happening, because now that people have found out all of these big atrocities are getting filed with the Supreme Court, because they put us in the British law process where you have your attorney has to take you all the way through this whole thing. The Brunson brothers didn't use an attorney. I know at least 12 other people, because they've communicated with me, just like Trennis Evans, because they learned you can file your own cases. Trennis Evans went and studied while I filed those cases in San Diego, because I'm just a citizen. But a citizen has a right to file a case. And so I filed because I couldn't afford an attorney. I couldn't have any representation. So I did it myself. Went to the law school, figured out how to do it, and law library. And but I don't want to be an attorney, don't want to be part of this legal system because I know the root of it. And I don't want to participate in it. And that's why an attorney will tell you, no matter what case you've got a 50-50 chance of winning because it all depends upon where the judge is going to agree with and what they're going to do. So here we are with someone who knew back on that interview that there is no delay, there is no process of delay. If they make an opinion, the opinion is released to the people because it's the people's court. So the process is now we've got the Brunson case, we got Raylan's first case, we got Loy's first case is already at Supreme Court. Then we've got Raylan's second case has already made a determination, and those 3 justices recused themselves within 72 hours of being notified of that case because they thought they could get away with what they did with Raylan's first case. Because then that takes their ability to away from Raylan to accomplish anything. Well, then now we've got these other cases because other people are taking their judges to court. And I just asked today with this presidential pardon for Tina Peters, and I don't know that we mentioned much about that tonight. That presidential pardon was dated on December 6th. It went to the president for a pardon. It's 9 pages explaining all of the atrocities, and it was an overreach. It's a state court that they made a federal decision on and gave her major penalties when she never committed a crime. She merely brought the truth, and she knows the Venezuelans, she knows the Serbia, she knows the international people who committed war crimes against America, and she's sitting in prison because she brought the truth to the court. And it's a federal election, and she did everything she was supposed to do, and they won't release her. They won't correct it. They won't transfer her to the federal court. They won't let her be out on bail to be the witness in the federal cases that she has the answers to and the witnesses for. So they're committing crimes. So I asked today, I said, is anyone look? And will somebody please, that's out there in Colorado and knows this judge, and look at your records in the state? Because we have judges, we have DAs that do not have law licenses and have not taken oaths. And they refuse to cure. Every one of those refused to cure. And because Todd Callender did that research, that's how he found the 45 points and handed it to me, because number 13 is avoid all loyalty oaths. They have no plan of committing themselves to our Constitution or to our lives here in America. And you know what that means? All of those people thought they got away and couldn't get charged with treason because they didn't take an oath to America. So how can America charge them for treason? You're in bigger problems because you not only are committing treason, but now you're in a seat, you're sitting on the bench, you're making decisions on people's lives, you're costing us money, you're accepting a payroll from America, all of these Congress people, all these judges, and they're doing all of this, and they're in a seat collecting money from America and choosing to not commit themselves to America or follow the rule of law in America because they're not committed to us. And that's the takeover of America, far bigger and more. It is so much more corruption than any of these illegals are causing. And these illegals are causing all sorts of issues. But guys, we have a bigger problem because we have people in seats making laws, spending our money, making court decisions as a judge, and they had no authority to do it if they don't take a oath to our Constitution. And they chose not to cure. Every one of them was given 10 days to cure, and every one of them in Congress, 388 names. Every one of these judges, I don't know the total number, but that case was filed by Todd Callender on April 18, 2023. And that's how he found the 45 points, handed it to me, and said, I think you're going to write a book about this.
It's unbelievable, Sheila, when you look at the layers on how this deep state is we call them the deep state or cabal, how they've controlled all of our aspects of our lives. And you know damn well that these judges and these courts are all in bed with the banks because I know many people through COVID that lost businesses and stuff. Their bank accounts were seized. There's so many foreclosures that have happened that are unconstitutional, and we don't even have constitutional money. When you look at the Federal Reserve note, it's a debt, and
all of
used,
that's gonna be resolved. But let me explain what I think, and this could just be Sheila's opinion, but I think this is what it is. To call it the deep state because we've never understood the powers in the state. They flipped the switch and made it federal. They made these bureaus that aren't part of our Constitution that have to go bye-bye, including the Federal Bureau of. All of these bureaus were added. There's more than 405 departments that were added. Because we were shut down for 40 days, they were able to eliminate some of those. More than 300,000 employees left before September 30, but because September 30 happened and it got shut down, and the generals were called to Quantico on the same day, another 100,000 decided to leave our government that day. We've had amazing things happen, but state, deep state, let's look at that. The power is in the states. The power is in what the states do. And that's why America First Policy Institute that started on January 7 because of January 6 is setting up state offices because they've written more than 85, 90% already of the executive orders for the president. They've written the laws to turn these things around. You know why? They're working with the American people, finding out what the American people want. The reason why people are so excited about these executive orders is because they're creating the proper wording on the executive orders to get the benefits for the people in America, because that's the way government is supposed to work for you. You tell us what would work better for you. We will write it up for you. We will get this together so that you guys have a better life. That is you and me as a republic. We haven't had that. And now we're getting that turned around. And do you know that we don't even have more than half of our states that have a ratified constitution. So when I asked state reps about taking an oath to the Constitution, they say, well, it's the U.S. Constitution, and so I guess, yeah, we could. They don't even know there's a state constitution because it's never been ratified, because you have to have 2/3 of your citizens in your state ratify that constitution. They never wanted it ratified because they didn't want any states following that either, because they've been in charge of the structuring of us before we were structured. Do you see what I mean? So we have to clean up, and that's why Flynn kept saying, what happens locally impacts national, because if you don't know who your mayors, your school board, your city councils, your county commissioners, if you don't know who those people are that are running all your money and handling everything about your life and over the budgets and in charge of everything, if you don't even know the character of those people, and they take those people who become popular, they say, and then they put those in state positions. Then they put him in national positions. Well, he's been a governor over there, so I guess he'd be a good senator for that state. We haven't even known who these people are. And then they're in their 40, 50 years in federal. Everybody became international. We do not have state representatives, even in DC, because they all became international. They've all been traveling international. They've all been focused international. But we aren't even taking care of everything in our town. So when people go, what can I do? Who's on your village board of trustees? Because even the little villages have a corporation, because every village, town, city, county, state, you may not see it. You may not know where it's registered, but it's there because Charles Joseph Bonaparte set it up as a municipality structure. That's why people use the word municipality. Your water is a municipality. Really? The bonds for schools, the bonds for water, the bonds for all. Did you know none of that's coming to you? You have ballots, and do you want this bond increase because we want to help your education process in your state? No, all that money, that bond doesn't help anything in your community. None of it. The fraud and the corruption in the bonds is being dealt with. California has a huge case about the education bonds, the school board bonds, the water bonds. All those bonds have been more ways to get money from us. And we agreed to it because we said, well, yeah, we need to have better water. So I think we'll pay another 30 billion this year for our state to have that. We're not adding it up. You guys, I'm going on a rant again, but
No,
it's so
no.
critical. It is so critical that we get a handle on we the people in order to form a more perfect union. We the people. The Republic is for America. The
Yes.
Republic works for America. And the only way it can work for America is if we're integral in making sure it knows this is what the people need, but this is what you've given us. The Hopi Indian in the early 1970s, and it's on YouTube. Just look up Hopi Indian Elder, I think he was called. And it's on YouTube.
Yes.
You think we're stupid for not having running water? We know what they put in the water. You just don't know what they put in the water. So you're enjoying your running water into your house so that it affects everyone in your house. That's who you people are. He described exactly what would happen with manufacturing, exactly how it would come in, and exactly how it would disappear. And it's exactly what happened. You never would have thought it when he said it in the 70s, but you can think about it now. The wise people with truth are never allowed to have the voice by those who want to keep you enslaved. That's the bottom line.
No more. This is why we're doing these podcasts. This is why, when General Flynn, when we took the oath of defending our country from foreign and domestic enemies, and why Trump called it fake news, because you never hear any of this information on any of the corporate news channels or the radio stations or the newspapers or the magazines or any educational books. They wanted to dumb us down, and this is why we do these shows with Sheila Holm and with Juan and other guests that we've had on our show, is that we are now turning the tides on the cabal, and we are taking all this evil away from, and we're doing this as a mission from God. I always love that phrase with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and they say we're on a mission from God. And that's what we're doing right here. So Sheila, we've had a hell of a show tonight. Again, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done and being a part of the Royal House of We the People. And that title comes from Anna, and that, she says we're now the royal family, the Royal House of We the People, and we have to take our power back, and that comes from us getting involved. And we can't complain anymore. We have to get involved. And I've said this before with Juan, and that is, what footprint are we going to leave on this earth when we leave this earth for future generations? And we have to do this right. It has to be authentic. It has to be detailed so that our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren never have to go through what we're going through right now. It's very important. And I ask everyone who's been following us and following Sheila, and I want everyone to know Sheila's website, and that is hisbest.org. And she has other videos on her website that she does with other podcasters that you can get more information from her. But more importantly, I beg you to buy her book. You won't be disappointed. Many of you will be celebrating Christmas. I know some of us will not, because we learned that that's another holiday that they've infiltrated on us also. But there's no better gift you could give your family, your friend, your neighbor, or just anyone, and that is Sheila's books that she has on hisbest.org. Sheila, thank you. We've had a long show here. We probably will put this in a part one, part two, because there's so much information here. And boy, when you come back from down there and visiting down there, we sure like to hear what you're learning, and we're looking forward to working with you on educating the people on restoring America. So thank you so much. Any parting words that you want to say, Sheila?
I want to let them know the hardback is only available right now on Amazon because you can order it individually. I did that so that we wouldn't have to order thousands of them and then try and figure out additional shipping and all that kind of stuff. So you can order it straight from in hardback. The new book is available in hardback as of December 1 on Amazon. The rest of all the ebooks are on our website, including the new one. And we have print books that we send in America, but we have printing set up all around the world in the different nations. And so that would all be through Amazon. And so it'd be Amazon, Japan, Amazon, Australia, like that. So that's how that part works. And I want to let you know I've got a December newsletter coming out that is so power packed because it includes Christmas with a Clay Clark interview that confirms the depth of it. I have the Georgia Guidestones on there, so I have the interviews about that. So even including the video from the day that they erected those, and you'll see exactly who was behind it. All of this is on there to show us the difference between honoring the feasts and festivals of the Lord. You're either, Elijah said, choose this day who you will serve. And we didn't know there was a difference. And they aren't Jewish. Jewish is a religion, and it's not Jewish. It's the feast and festival of the Lord, Leviticus 23. So the December newsletter is coming out this week. If you want the newsletter, they were going to move the newsletter contact form to the contact page because all of you people are coming in on the ministry one and just saying, Sheila, will you add me to the newsletter? So the newsletter is just first, last name, email, and we'll send you the newsletter. And it's going to be long. It's going to be impactful. It's going to have pictures, have pictures of the books involved. And he's going to embed the links to the Georgia Guidestones and the Faith and Soldier Monuments that give you the details of how we got here and what we believed and what the Civil War soldiers knew. Is all of this is going to be in there with the interview links and everything and content about this is Christmas and this is Hanukkah and this is the difference. And you don't have to get a menorah and you don't have to light it because Father doesn't care about traditions and rituals. And it's not about that. It's about, can you meet with people 8 days in a row? Break bread together. Can you write little personal notes to each other for those 8 days about who those people are in your life? And if you have a chance to make something, whether it's a drawing or something personal, but it's not about commercialization. Nothing about the Father is go out and shop and find this and nothing about trends. It's a whole different way of celebrating the Festival of Lights because he sent his son to bring the light to the world. That's what it's about. 70 days after his birth on Feast of Tabernacles. So it's all in the newsletter. Sorry that it's long, and we'll probably have to split this into 3 because now we've been on, I think, 3 hours. I was just looking. I can't believe time flies with you guys, and I don't want to burden people with lengthy things to listen to, but I'm just so honored to have this time with you. And we go into the depths of these things, and I'm grateful you let me stay on and get the 2 things I was going to mention while I was on tonight, and then see what other questions you guys had, and look at what God did. It's been quite a night with you guys.
No,
Sheila, you're a
blessing.
blessing. You're a blessing to all of us. So, Anna said this. Our channel's your channel. We consider you family, and we love you.
Yep. Thank you, Sheila.
Sheila, before our show this afternoon, I was preparing here. I was preparing organizing everything at home so I could be here. A white dove sat in my window, so I said, "Oh my God, I don't need anything else." I had the white dove on my window. I tried to take a picture, but she flew away. And yeah, just to mention, just to illustrate the day
Well,
with the
just so
white
you know,
dove.
the tribes of Israel from 1906 BC to 721, when they were taken captive, the flag of the tribes of Israel, not some land, piece of land, the tribes of Israel flag was a dove and an olive branch. Because it's all about peace be with you and peace also be
And
with
also
you.
with you.
That's the greeting between believers.
Wow. Amazing.
Thanks,
Well,
Sheila.
we'll leave you with this because Sheila, you said it last week, and I'm going to say it this time, and that is, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, and that time is right now. So God bless everyone. Thank you so much for bringing us all into your homes and listening to us. And please go to hisbest.org and get Sheila's book.
My name is James McCrank. I would like to ask the board a question. Are you guys familiar with the Nassar Act? Are you familiar with it? You're not familiar.
Can't say that I am, but we generally don't respond, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's important that we do get response because we're not getting any response, and that's why we're all here. The bottom line is this. The United States of America Corporation is dead. Trump killed it 3 years ago. That flag doesn't represent us. That gold fringe around that flag is the signature of the corporation. And the reason that the media is not reporting it, the reason you guys aren't showing up, our sheriff isn't showing up, are you guys part of the corporation or are you part of America? Because everyone here is standing up for our rights. What legacy are you guys going to leave behind for your grandchildren and your kids? And I'm surprised that there ain't thousands of people here tonight. Either we got to do the right thing here, audit these elections, or the military is going to come in and do it. And if they do it, people are going to jail.
Through the storm, our birthrights that the bankers stole, they engineered each crash. They filled their vaults with the people's gold as they printed paper cash. A casino called the stock exchange, where the gambling begins. An investment tool to tempt the fool, where the dealer always wins. In this corporate world of government, where nothing's what it seems, your pathway set with every step to a grave of broken dreams. Unlearning everything we knew is a painful place to dwell, as a wizard sits controlling you behind his hidden veil. A global world agenda set by the deep and darkest state. They're puppets dancing on a string to divide the world with hate. The American dream and our flag of hope, they never let us be. We will serve each other under God in the land of the brave and free. We all saw our world collapsing.
The next thing that's got to fall are these failed, corrupt institutions. And when God Almighty sits and takes that judgment seat, it's over. So do what you can to improve the terrain until there is freedom.
We are the people, we are sovereign, moving forward through the storm. Don't be afraid and hold the line. In the royal house we stand. Like McKinley, Lincoln, Kennedy, we were told to trust the plan. The grandmasters playing 5D chess, they all know the art of war. Real generals on this battlefield led the Anons through the door. Information is the biggest threat in our search to find the proof. Such patriots we won't forget, who all dare to share the truth. We once stood alone